Welcome to the HTML class brought to you by Creative Online School. My name is Keith and I'm going to be your instructor. I've been doing web design and development for about 20 years now, and I've taught hundreds of students in both classrooms as well as online different aspects of the web. Now, if this is your first time in any kind of programming or doing anything outside of just surfing the web, I've got great news for you. Now, programming refers to code that actually executes something, like when you fill out a contact form on a website that gets sent to somebody, or maybe an application that uses a password to let you into the website, or maybe just something that adds two numbers together. That's programming, because it actually performs an action when you run it. Now, HTML is more like a word processor. It uses it to style a web page and lay things out and give them color and placement on the page. It's kind of like a magician giving away their secrets. I'm going to show you the magic that makes up a web page.
And welcome to our web development lesson brought to you by CreativeOnlineSchool.com. First, a little bit about me. My name is Justin Posey. I have 9 years in web development. Most of that time I specialized in MySQL and PHP. First, we're going to go over an introduction to Apache, PHP, and Git, as well as their installation. Then we're going to go over using Apache to create HTML web pages. We'll learn some basic PHP and how to use it to create a web page. We're going to talk about using Git for version control. We'll learn some advanced PHP techniques so that we can make functional web pages such as forms. We'll go over an introduction to JavaScript and how to use it on your web pages. Then we'll go over some more advanced JavaScript so that we can accomplish some things that you can't in PHP. Finally, we'll give you an introduction to JSON and using JSON with JavaScript, as well as introduction to XML and using it with PHP and JavaScript.
Hello and welcome to Learn MySQL with Justin Posey, brought to you by CreativeOnlineSchool.com. In this tutorial, we're going to go over a basic introduction to MySQL, how to install MySQL Server, PHP and MySQL Workbench. We're going to teach you how to create databases and tables, how to import and export information from those tables, how to input, retrieve, and manipulate data with SQL, and some more advanced SQL techniques for those who want to get the most out of their system.
In this video, you'll learn a bit about what MongoDB is, how it works, and why you may want to use it for your projects. I'm Ridoy Majumdar, and I'm the instructor for this course. I have many years of programming experience, and I've used MongoDB as a database for many projects in the past. I'm a professional, full-stack web developer with experience using technologies such as Node.js, PHP, and of course, Mongo. Here's a brief overview of what you can expect to learn in this course. First, I'll introduce you to MongoDB and the way that it stores data. Then, I'll show you how to install MongoDB on your machine. We'll spend a couple of videos together demonstrating both basic and advanced queries that you can do using MongoDB for handling your data. And in the last few videos, we'll build 2 web projects starting from scratch using Mongo and PHP.
News for you. We're not going to be doing any programming in this course. Yeah, you heard me right. No programming. Confused? Well, guess what? HTML is actually a markup language, and you'll be doing coding, not programming, so hopefully that set your mind at ease. Now, programming refers to code that actually executes something, like when you fill out a contact form on a website that gets sent to somebody, or maybe an application that uses a password to let you into the website, or maybe just something that adds two numbers together. That's programming, because it actually performs an action when you run it. Now, HTML is more like a word processor. It uses it to style a web page and lay things out and give them color and placement on the page. It's kind of like a magician giving away their secrets. I'm going to show you the magic that makes up a web page. Now let's take a look at some of what HTML looks like. Now this is what a basic paragraph looks like in HTML. Now it's not too far off from what it looks like if you opened it up in a Word doc and just started typing, but you'll notice some greater than or less than characters surrounding a letter or letters throughout the paragraph. These are what are called tags. These tags are used to tell the browser how to display something. Now for instance, in this example, you're going to see a paragraph of text that starts out with a less than sign, followed by the letter P, followed by the greater than symbol. Now this is what tells the browser to start a new paragraph. At the end of the paragraph, you're going to see almost that same series of characters, but with a forward slash before the P. This is what tells the browser to stop the paragraph and start something new. Now this could lead to a new heading, a new paragraph, an image, or just be the end of the page. Either way, we've told the browser when to start and when to stop something. Pretty easy, right? This is how almost all HTML code works. There's only a few instances of tags that don't end, but I'll show you those a little bit later and it'll make sense why. Now HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So let's break that crazy computer speak down and make it make a little bit more sense. The hypertext is any kind of text that you select and link to something else. Now this could be another web page or a PDF or an email or anything that you want to send it to. This is what separates a web page from just a regular text page. You actually link to other things. Now the second half of that, the markup language, is exactly what I mentioned earlier. This is not a programming language, but a markup language, meaning we're making up plain text and we're giving it some structure and characteristics to make it look better. So back to our example, if you feel you're not remembering to close every tag that you open, think of HTML as standing for Hamburger Text Markup Language, and picture your tags as being the buns of a hamburger. If you put one on top, you need to put one on the bottom. Otherwise, it's not really going to be a hamburger. It's going to be just kind of a messy meat thing, right? Okay, ready to move on? The difference between HTML and HTML5. HTML5 has been a bit of a buzzword over the last several years. Now there's been previous versions of HTML, but none of them are really touted as being HTML3 or HTML4. I think the main reason that this version was given a more specific name was because it was the first upgrade that really had some impressive features worth talking about. Now to really understand the benefits of HTML5, let's first talk about some of the previous versions and what the differences were. Now, for the most part, the versions of HTML dealt with trying to give designers and coders better control over aligning objects on a page and really greater control over tables and things like that. Now, these were small but important changes at the time. Now, remember that HTML is the coding language for browsers, so when writing HTML, the browser is what interprets that code and makes it something visual. Things have improved greatly over the years, but back when we were coding in HTML3, a site might display a lot differently from browser to browser, so the ability to have more control over how your web page looked was really important. When HTML4 came out, more tags were available, giving users greater control over the web pages, and browsers started to standardize how they display their code. One big change that came out around this time was the different types of HTML4, like transitional, which was for users transitioning from a web page using older versions of HTML. Now, the other option was HTML strict, or what some people called XHTML, which was, as the name implies, a much more strict form of HTML that required your code to be written a certain way to attempt to have it look the same across all browsers. Now, you might not notice some of the subtle differences between these variations of code, but sites like, let's say, Constant Contact still require XHTML code for its e-blasts. HTML5 has gotten away from how strict this code was and really cleaned up a lot of the extra code that was in previous versions, as well as given us a bunch of new features that help to move away from plugin-dependent code like Adobe Flash to do cool things like play games and watch videos. So first, let's take a look at the very first line of code in an HTML file. Here's what was required in an HTML4 file. And here's what it looks like now in HTML5. It's much more simple and clean. It's less code. The less code that you have on your page, the faster it loads, so this was a smart choice. Previously, you needed something like Flash Player to be able to let visitors watch video or listen to audio files on your site. Those users would need a plugin installed before being able to watch it, so you were possibly alienating some of your users. With HTML5, you no longer need these players, and you can just do it by simply adding a video or audio tag, something not previously available in HTML4. Now, later as we get into CSS, you're going to see how nice this feature is, but some of the new tags were added to define areas of the page, like header and footer, and nav, and article, where before you had to create these with custom CSS div tags. Additionally, HTML5 brought out a bunch of advanced features like Canvas, which lets users draw on the page with the help of some JavaScript, drag and drop capabilities to upload files, geolocation APIs, things like that. With all these new features, programmers have actually started creating games that run on HTML5, as well as web and mobile apps using it. HTML5 has become a very powerful upgrade with potential to be an even more powerful coding language in the upcoming years. Now before we go too far, I want to go ahead and let you take a look and see what an HTML file looks like by creating your own. It's actually very simple and you don't need any real special tools to do some of the basic work on it. So what I'm going to do is open up on the Mac a program called TextEdit. It's a very simple text editing program. If you are on PC, I would suggest using something like Notepad. Even Word will work for something like this. We're going to keep this one really simple and just take a look at a basic HTML file. Alright, so I've got my page here. I'm going to go ahead and just type out something very simple like hello, creative online. Alright, of course I got an error right away there. Let's fix that. Alright, hello, creative online school. This is my file. Very simple text document. And what I am going to do is go ahead and go to save it. And when I save it, I'm going to give it the name, I'm going to call this one index, and I'll tell you why later on, but let's go ahead and get used to just naming our first file index. And it gives you the option to save it as something. If you can turn off text, you can just type in your own extension there. Give it the extension of HTML. I know some of these text editing programs will give you the option to click on a drop down and save it as an HTML file. If not, go ahead and just add that extension yourself. You're not going to blow up the internet, don't worry. And I'm going to save it to my desktop so I can find it. Alright, so you'll see right here on my desktop, I've got my index file, and what's really cool about this is that you can test this stuff out without having to upload it to a server. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the browser here, and all I have to do is grab this index file and drag it over to a browser, and I can see the text that I wrote. And I can look up in the address bar here, and I can see that it is looking at my index.html file, so I know that it's reading that, and I can see the text that I wrote right here. Now, this is nothing that's going to win any prizes for creativity, but just want to show you what a basic HTML file looks like. Now, another thing that you're going to want to take a look at here is I'm going to move this over to the side. I'm going to keep this open. It's still referencing this index.html file. I'm going to come back to my document here, And I want to go ahead and add my first line of HTML code. I'm going to keep this one really, really simple. And to the left of hello, I'm going to do a less than symbol, lowercase b, and a greater than symbol. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add almost the same thing to the other end of the text here. I'm going to do a less than, but this time I'm going to do a forward slash, lowercase b, and the greater than symbol. Oops, looks like my b moved outside of that. There we go. All right, so less than, forward slash, letter B, greater than. So what I've done is added a B, or a bold tag, to the beginning of this word here, and another one at the end. Now we're going to get more into these tags and what they mean later on, but again, this one just means to bold the text that's in there. So, in most cases, you would probably expect to see this in the browser with the less than, the B, the greater than symbol on both sides of this text here. But again, this is telling the browser to use this tag to do something creative to it. So I'm going to save my file here, and I'm going to come back to my browser window, and because it's still referencing that same file, I haven't changed the name of it or anything like that, all I should have to do is click on my refresh button here, and you'll see my text got bold. So that's just a taste of what we're going to be doing in the rest of these HTML class file. Welcome to CSS, brought to you by Creative Online School. My name is Keith Hearn, and I will be your instructor for this entire class. I have been doing web development for over 20 years now, and I've trained hundreds of students in both classrooms and online. In this class, we're going to be learning all about CSS, or cascading style sheets. I prefer CSS just because it's a little bit shorter. What you're going to need for this class is a basic understanding of HTML. If you are not familiar with HTML at this point, I suggest you go over to Creative Online School and check out some of the videos there on HTML. I did a class on there, and there are several other really good ones as well, so go ahead and check those out. If you have a basic understanding of HTML, that's about all you're going to need, that along with your favorite HTML editing program, where we will be exploring CSS and building a small website using it. So go ahead and sit back and let's learn a little bit about CSS.